Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Trulini Test Prep. Today I'll be providing a full walkthrough of the Digital PSAT 8-9 Math Practice Test Number 2. The Digital PSAT 8-9 is a preliminary SAT exam often taken by American students in the 8th or 9th grade. While it is similar in content to the DSAT, it is not as rigorous. This practice test is ideal for younger students to see how they are progressing. I highly recommend you complete the exam yourself before watching this video. Let's get started with Module 1. Okay, this is the beginning of Module 1, Question 1. So this question wants us to look at the year 2010, and it wants us to compare it to the years after 2010. So I always think about this as just subtraction. So I'm going to do yellow minus pink. So 2010 minus 2010, that gives me an x of 0. So we're going to read the graph when x equals 0. And we see that that gives us 20,000 residents, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 2. So this part here, $60 per hour. This keyword per kind of makes me think this is a slope or an M. And this here, plus $120 for parts, that really sounds like a flat fee or a fixed rate, like a flat fee initial cost. So I'm going to make that my B, my y-intercept. So if y equals mx plus b, and m is 60, and b is 120, that gives us 60x plus 120. And that is answer choice C. Okay, question 3. So for this one, I could solve for x, but I'm kind of noticing that this is pretty much almost the same as this. I just need to subtract 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 12 from each side to make it look like that. And I get 3x minus 12 is equal to 18. And that gives us answer choice B. We could also do this on Desmos. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equation verbatim. I click on it. I see that the solution is 10. So now to find 3x minus 12, I'm just going to do 3 times 10 minus 12. And I also get 18, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 4. So we want to find f of 7. That essentially just means to replace all the x's with a 7. So we get f of 7 equals 80 minus 6 times 7. So that should be 80 minus 42. And that should give us 38, which is answer choice B. We can also do this on Desmos, so let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the function exactly as it's written. Now I'm going to type in f of 7 on the next line, and I also get 38. Okay, question 5. So this one wants us to figure out how many volunteers chose gift C. So I'm going to look at gift C, and I read the graph, and it looks like that is at 18. So we have 18 volunteers. That is answer choice D. Okay, question 6. So probability is the desired outcomes over the total outcomes. There are 3 numbers in the list, so that means we have a total of 3. And it's asking about if we select a negative. There's only one negative number, so 1 desired out of 3 total. So the probability would be 1/3, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 7. We're first going to solve this by hand using the methods I outline in my Ottocento, I believe it's number 4 on factoring, so definitely go watch that. I'm just going to assume you've already seen that. We're going to use, our first thought is always to think, can we take out a greatest common factor? Well, not all 3 terms have an x, and 7, 20, and 32 don't have any common factors. As a matter of fact, 7 is prime, and 7 doesn't go into those 2 other numbers. So we're going to use the AC method. So I'm going to make a little chart here. They have to add, multiply. They have to add to B, which is negative 20. AX squared plus BX plus C equals 0. They have to add to 20. And they have to multiply to 7AC, A times C, 7 times negative 32, which is negative 224. This is really hard with such big numbers, guys. But the two numbers that add to 20 and multiply to negative 224 are negative 28 and 8. So we're going to split the BX term into those two numbers. 7x squared minus 28x plus 8x minus 32 equals 0. And now we're going to factor by grouping. So the greatest common factor of the blue is 7x, and I'm left with x minus 4. The greatest common factor of the orange is just 4. And no, it's actually 8. 8 goes into 32. Yeah, my bad. So, and we're left with x minus 4 if you divide both those by 8. And now, as I go over in my video, we kind of Frankenstein the two factors together. So, one of the factors is the repeat, x minus 4. And the other factor is kind of this guy kind of shoved together. So 7x plus 8. And now we use the zero product property to find the solution. So 7x plus 8 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. We get x equals 4. Subtract 8 from both sides. We get 7x equals negative 8. And then we divide both sides by 7, and we get x equals negative 8 over 7. And they want us to find the positive solution. So the positive solution is 4. So we're going to lock in 4 as our answer. Because when you multiply 7 times negative 32, you get such a big number. This one was probably much easier to do on Desmos. So let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equation verbatim. And you can kind of see this first one is the negative 8 over 7, that big messy decimal. And the positive solution is 4. Could have gotten that answer way faster. Okay, question 8. So first thing I'm going to do is tackle this is all multiplication. I'm going to tackle the coefficients. So 8 times 7, that is 56. And then I'll tackle the variables in alphabetical order. That's just a convention. So y times y, only 2 y's, so I'm going to do y squared. And then it seems there are 2 z's. So again, multiply by a common base, add the exponents. Z to the 1 times z to the 1 is z to the 2. So we're going to make that z squared. And that should give us answer choice A. You could also go, Y is a special letter in Desmos, but you could go on Desmos and guess and check by maybe changing the Y and Z to like A and B, and then making like A2, B equals 3, and then guessing and checking all the answer choices, but that would have took so much longer. I would just make sure you know rules of exponents very well. Okay, question 9. So before we even start, I just want to point out that minimum is like an inequality keyword that means greater than or equal to. So that should hopefully jump out at you. It says dinner rolls are sold in packages of 12. So we're going to do 12x to show if I buy x packages and there's 12 in each, 12 times x. So for example, if there's 3 packages, I would get 36 dinner rolls. Hopefully that makes intuitive sense. And then as I just talked about, minimum is a keyword that tells us greater than or equal to. So we're going to put greater than or equal to. And we want 50 dinner rolls. So greater than or equal to 50. And I'm going to divide both sides by 12 to solve this inequality. And I get x is greater than or equal to 4.16 repeating. and we can't buy a fraction of a package. And notice how 4, lots of people probably put 4 isn't greater than or equal to 4.16, so that's no good. The answer is actually 5. We're going to go with 5 packages. So it's not exactly rounding, guys. You just have to think, what's the next number that satisfies the inequality? So if you thought, oh, it's 4.1, I got to round down, that's not quite the correct logic for this problem. Always check to make sure that your answer satisfies the inequality. 4 does not satisfy this inequality, but 5 does. 5 is the smallest number that satisfies x is greater than, the smallest integer that satisfies x is greater than or equal to 4.16 repeating. Okay, question 10. You don't have to do this, guys, but just so that everyone can follow along, you can just, if you deeply understand a square root, you don't need to do this, but how about I just do 22 times 22, which is 484. Now to solve this equation, to get rid of the square, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And I get x is equal to the square root of 484 is 22. However, we have to put a plus or minus sign when we take the square root of a square in an equation. So it's really x equals negative 22 and x equals positive 22. But we're just going to go with x equals 22 because the question is asking about the positive solution. X equals negative 22 is still an answer, and a future question could have asked you about that one, and if you didn't know that, you'd maybe get it wrong. So always make sure you put a plus or minus sign on the other side when you take a square root of a square in an equation. We can also do this on Desmos. Let's go do that. Okay, I just typed in the equation verbatim, and as you can see, this has two solutions, negative 22 and 22. Once again, we're going with 22 because the question asked for the positive solution. Okay, question 11. So these two angles are the acute angles of a right triangle. The acute angles of a right triangle are complementary, which means they add up to 90 degrees. So we're going to write a plus 13 is equal to 90. Now to solve this equation, I'm going to subtract by 13 on both sides. And I get a equals 77, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 12. We could find the equation of the line for this. This is linear growth. She's depositing a constant amount each week, so it's a constant rate of change. So it's linear. But I don't know, it's probably easier if we just make like a little table and just do it one at a time. So at the beginning of the first week, in other words, at the end of the 0th week. So at the end of the 0th week, she has $600, and then she's depositing 35 each. Okay, so that's one. At the end of the first week, she has 635. At the end of the second week, she has 670. At the end of the third week, she has 705. And then at the end of the fourth week, if I plus 35 again, she has $740. And that is answer choice D. Okay, question 13. So from the reference sheet in the top right hand corner, we see that the area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 base times height. They told us that the base was 40 and the height was 90. So we're going to do 1/2 40 times 90. And that gives us an area of 1,800 square centimeters. Okay, question 14. So we got a slope of 2. So that tells us that m equals 2. And we've got a y-intercept, which we can tell by, well, they told us, but also because the x-coordinate is 0, of -5. So that tells us that b is equal to -5. So we've got a linear function y equals mx plus b. So if m equals 2 and b equals -5, that gives us y equals 2x minus 5. And that is answer choice D. We can also do this on Desmos. Let's go try that. Okay, so let's say, they give us another point, or I wasn't sure what to do with the y-intercept of 0, -5. So I'm going to click on this plus and make a table. And I'm going to put 0, -5. And I'm going to type in y1 tilde mx1 plus b. Not really that helpful for this problem, but helpful for other problems. And if I look at the parameters, I see, okay, m is 2, so 2x, and then b, it says is -5 -5, and you see when I type that in, it perfectly replaces what Desmos told me, so that's a good way to check to make sure you did a good job. Okay, question 15. So we want to find the length of the triangle's hypotenuse, that is the side across from the right angle, so why don't we label that with an x. Next, to solve this problem, to find a missing side, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, which is on the reference sheet. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b must be the legs. C is the hypotenuse. So why don't I call this guy A, this guy B, and then the hypotenuse is C. So 3 squared plus 7 squared equals x squared. And now we just figure out what 3 squared plus 7 squared is. That is 58. And now we're going to take the square root of both sides to get rid of the square. And we don't need to simplify that. It wants it as a decimal approximation. This is giving me about 7.6, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 16. So to make this one a little bit more clear for you guys, I'm just going to rewrite the 5x over 13 as 5/13 x. That is valid. That's going to give you the same kind of calculations and everything. All I did was take this fraction and write it in front just to make it more clear that it's a coefficient. So y equals mx plus b. You can see that the slope is 5/13. And the y-intercept is -23. So this question wants the slope. So that's 5/13. I would, make sure that's simplified. It is. You can't simplify that any further. So I would just put in 5/13. Okay, question 17. So I cover all of this, guys, in my Ottocento number 10. On area and volume scale factors. Please go watch it. I'm just gonna assume you watched it. Not gonna explain it anymore. So please go watch that. It tells you everything you need to know. So in that video, we talk about how to look at scale factors for similar shapes. So first thing you should notice is that these shapes are similar. Second thing you should notice is that TU and XY are corresponding sides. If you make a picture, you can tell that, but even if you don't make a picture, look at the similarity statement. See how TU and XY are in the same part of the statement? They're both like the first letter and the second letter. So those are corresponding sides. So I can quickly figure out the linear scale factor by using, which I call capital K in my video, by using the perimeters, because perimeters are linear measurements. And I personally like to think about it as big over small. That way, if it comes out to a nice whole number, the math will work out nicely. So 333/37, big over small. Okay, I get a length scale factor, linear scale factor of 9. Okay, so the length of TU is 18. So if this guy is times 9, then the lengths, the side lengths, will also be times 9, or if you had the big one, you would divide by 9. I'll go over that in the video. So let's see, 18 times 9, that is 162. And the length of XY, that's the big length we just found, 162. That is answer choice D. Okay, question 18. So when we talk about ratios, A to B, A colon b, a to b, and a over b are all the same. Since we're most comfortable with fractions, I tend to use fractions. So that's what I'm going to do. So 140 to m, okay, so that's 140 over m is equivalent to, so that's an equals, the ratio 4 to 28. So that's 4 over 28. Now I'm just going to cross multiply and divide. So these guys and these guys multiply together. So 4 times m is just 4m. 140 times 28 is 3920. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And I get m equals 980. And that is our answer. Okay, question 19. So I go over this in my Ottocento number 1 on my on percents. I also go over it in my shorts on percents. You can check either of those out. So a really great way to find the percent change or percent increase decrease from values is to use this percent change equation. So percent change equals new minus old over old times 100. So we started at 9 and we went up to 90. So the old is 9 and the new is 90. So the percent change equals 90 minus 9 over 9 times 100. Okay, so 81 over 9, that's 9. 9 times 100 is 900. So we get a positive 900%. That is a 900% increase. And it sounds certainly like that is what the question wants. So the answer is D. Let's go over how to do some of the calculation on Desmos. Okay, so you don't have to do this by any means, but I like to actually type in like lowercase o and lowercase n for old and new. And then I make a fraction bar by pressing slash, and I do n minus o over o times 100, and that tells me the percent change really quickly. We once again get 900, which still gives us answer choice D. Okay, question 20. Doing this one by hand is probably a little silly, but let's go over it anyway. So I see that y is by itself for both of them. So I'm going to use substitution. So 1/7 x equals negative 1/5 x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the x's to one side, get all the constants to the other. So I'm going to add 1/5 x to both sides. You could get rid of the denominators, but again, this problem's so short, it doesn't really matter. So let's see, 1/7 plus 1/5, that gives me 12/35 x equals 0. And if I divide both sides by 12 over 35, well, 0 divided by anything is just 0. So I do just get x equals 0. Which is what they wanted. Good. So we get answer choice B. This was way easier to do on Desmos, so let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed both equations in verbatim, and you can see that the red and the blue meet right here at 0, 0. The question wants the x-coordinate, which is 0. Okay, question 21. So this is just an interpreting like a function notation point question. I'm going to do it completely off to the side without reading the answer choices at all. So we get, it says s of 87 equals 23. And the function's name is s of t. So the letter inside the parentheses is the number inside the parentheses. So this guy is t. And then this letter outside the parentheses and also over here is the number over here. So see how it's kind of like a little bit of crisscross? So this guy is S. Now we're going to look in the equation for the context. So let's see what it says about T. So it says T years after it starts to decay. So when T equals 87 years after it starts to decay, S equals 23, and let's look for that where it talks about S. The function S gives the approximate mass of the isotope in grams that remains. Okay, so 23 grams of the isotope remain. Okay, now that we have that completely done without looking at the answer choices at all, so that we hopefully don't get tricked, we're going to go look at the answer choices. So let's see. Approximately 23 grams of the sample remains 87 years after. This one's looking pretty good. I'm gonna check that. Let's see if we can find some problems with the other one. We've got, it has decreased. Oh no, point doesn't say anything about that. It's just two values. It doesn't say anything about a decrease. It doesn't say anything about a decrease. I don't even need to read the rest. Approximately 87 grams. Oh, this has it backwards. We said it's 23 grams. So it's looking like answer choice A is our answer. Okay, question 22. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take this information and find the volume. So they said it's a cube. The volume of a cube is equal to S cubed. So the edge, where S is the edge length. So the edge length is 3, so it's 3 cubed. And that should give us 27. So the volume of the cube is 27 cubic centimeters. Now you don't need to know this, but it's definitely helpful if you do. Density equals mass divided by volume. And I'm going to put the numbers in that they gave us. So they told us the density was 0.230, and we don't know the mass, and we figured out that the volume was 27. And all the units match, so I don't need to worry about that. So now I just need to multiply both sides by 27. And when I do that, I get m.23 times 27 is 6.21. So the mass is 6.21 grams, and that is our answer. Okay, this is the beginning of Module 2A, question 1. So we want to find the solution to the system. That's the point of intersection of the two lines, which is right here. And now we read the coordinates, x comma y. So it seems the point of intersection happens at 3 comma 4, which gives us answer choice B. Okay, question 2. So we could make like a little equation like C equals 11p. This word per often tells us this is like a rate of change, so it's like something we're going to multiply by. You could also just think about it as like a unit conversion, so like $11 per pound. And then if we multiply that by 6 pounds, we see that the units of pounds cancel, and we're left with dollars, which is what we want. So 11 times 6 is 66. So we should get $66. And that is our answer. Okay, question 3. So the question wants us to look at a 50-pound gray wolf. So 50 pounds, that's the x-axis. And then I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to read it. See that little dot right there? That's the one we're looking for. And now we're going to read that. Its y value. And that gives us 6 offspring, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 4. So the question wants us to find vervets and mandrels. So I'm going to highlight those, and I'm going to circle the top of the bars. It seems like we have 11 vervets and 5 mandrels. And it says how many more. That's like a keyword. That means you want to subtract. You want to find the positive difference. So how many more? So we're going to do 11 minus 5, which gives us 6. And that is answer choice B. Okay, question 5. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute that 5. So I get 3x, 5 times x is 5x, and then positive 5 times 4 is 20, so plus 20. Now before I do any algebra, I'm going to combine the like terms. So I get 3x plus 5x is 8x. And now I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. I get 8x equals 56. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and I get x equals 7. Which gives us answer choice A. We can also do this one on Desmos super quick, so let's go do that. Okay, you'll notice all I did was type in the equation verbatim. Then I click on the solution, and we also get x equals 7. Okay, question 6. So whenever you have a system and like you can quickly solve for one of the letters, or they give you one of the variables, like solved already, you should just start with that equation. So this y equals 4 is really convenient. So you see we're going to use substitution. We're going to substitute for y, and we're going to put this in here. So x is equal to y, but y is really 4, right? So 4 plus 6. So that means x equals 10. And that gives us answer choice A. We can also do this on Desmos super quick. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equations verbatim. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that I can see the point of intersection. I double click on it, and I see the x-coordinate of the point of intersection is 10. Okay, question 7. So we're given a function, and they want us to find what happens when x equals 17. So we're going to replace all the x's with 17. In other words, we're going to find f of 17. So all these x's just get replaced with a 17. So f of 17 is equal to 16 over 17. And that is the value of f of x. That's not able to be simplified. So that gives us answer choice A. We could also do this on Desmos. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the function verbatim, and now I'm going to do f of 17. That's the value of the function when x equals 17. Using function notation, I click on the fraction button, and it tells me 16 over 17. Okay, question 8. So we've got like a piece of wire, and it's broken up into 2 parts, x and y. And the whole thing has a length of 32 inches. So x plus y equals 32. That's one of our equations. And then the other equation we need to break down very carefully. So x is means equals. So equals 4 more than 3 times the value of y. So this is like 3y plus 4 more. And it wants us to find x. So I don't know. I already have x by itself. We're going to do this on Desmos in a minute, but since I already have x by itself, how about I just substitute for x? So 3y plus 4 plus y, just swap those out. 32, so 4y, 3y plus y is 4y. 4y plus 4 equals 32. 4y, if I subtract 4 from both sides, I get 28. And then I get y equals 7. And then if I go back up to one of these equations, how about this one? I see that x is equal to 3 times y. So 3 times 7, that's 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So 25 is our answer. In all practicality, coming up with those equations probably takes you at least like 30 or 40 seconds. So I would probably just type those 2 equations into Desmos. Let's go do that now. Okay, so I typed both equations in verbatim. I don't see where they meet, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, double click where they meet, and I see that the value of x, which is what the question wanted, is 25. Okay, question 9. So there's kind of two ways to do this one. I'll do both. So you learn in like 6th or 7th grade to do like is over of equals percent over 100 for these like literal percent questions. So 21 is, so that goes here. 21%, that's the percent that goes here. Of what number? We can call that x to try to figure out what it is. So that can go here. So we get is 21. Of is x. The percent is 21 over 100. Now we can just cross multiply and divide. So 21 times 100 is 2100. And then 21 times x is 21x. Now we're going to divide both sides by 21. We should get x equals 100. And that is answer choice D. Now, I'm kind of more partial, especially with these harder questions on the exams, is to use like kind of like a percent equation method. So let me walk you through that now. So I'm just going to go left to right. So 21 is means equals. And then 21% of x. So 21%, that's 21 over 100, or 0.21. And then the of becomes a multiplication symbol, times x. So 0.21 times x, or 0.21x. Now, I've got that equation. And I'm going to divide both sides by 0.21. And I also get x is 100. So either of those ways would work. Again, if you're kind of planning for those really challenging questions on the SAT, you might want to get really comfortable with these kind of percent equations, like I did over here. Okay, question 10. Question wants us to find the y-intercept, so we're going to look where the function crosses the y-axis. And I see that happens right here. The coordinates of that point, I just read the graph, are 0, 3. The question you'll notice is asking for the y-coordinate. So the answer to this guy is 3. Okay, question 11. So we'll notice in the reference sheet in the top right corner that the formula for the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. So they told us the length was 7 and the width was 6. All the units seem to agree. That's probably something you always want to check, so nothing really to worry about there. And 7 times 6 is 42, so we get an area of 42 square inches. And that is answer choice C. Okay, question 12. So I noticed that these guys have a common factor. They don't both have an x, they don't both have a y, but they both have a 34. So I'm going to use factoring using a GCF, greatest common factor. I'm going to pull out a 34. And then when you pull out a GCF, you're essentially just dividing to see what's left. So we're pulling out a 34. So we divide both of them by 34, and we get x plus y. So this expression is equivalent to 34 times x plus y, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 13. So it says each rabbit snail costs $8. So I'm going to do 8 rabbit plus each narite snail costs $6. So 6n is equal to the total cost, which is $52. And then they tell us that she bought 2 narite snails. So n is 2. So we're going to replace the n with a 2. And we get 8r plus 12 equals 52. Subtract 12 from both sides, we get 8r equals 40. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and we get rabbit snails equals 5. And that gives us answer choice A. If you change the letters, we can use Desmos to solve this as well. Let's do that really quickly. Okay, so you'll notice all I did differently so that I could graph it was that I made all the R's X's and I made all the N's Y's. So you'll see if I click on where they meet, it gives us X is 5, so 5 rabbit snails. Okay, question 14. So we got a slope that's m equals -1/2. And then we also got 0, 3. Well, 0, whenever we have x equal to 0, that means the y-coordinate is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, when we're doing lines, we call b is equal to 3. So y equals mx plus b. Or in other words, with these numbers, y equals -1/2 x plus 3. So it's really important that you recognize whenever x is 0, that's telling you a y-intercept. Let's see, that gives us answer choice B. We could do this on Desmos too, if you really weren't sure. Let's go over it anyway. Okay, so I put the slope in. I'm going to make a table. And I put the point in, 0, tab 3. Then on the next line, I regress. y1 tilde mx1 plus b. And you see it still gives you that line and tells you the y-intercept is 3. And if you typed in y equals -1/2 x plus 3, it would perfectly replace that red line and go through that point, which means we did a good job. Okay, question 15. So it says we've got a minimum of 1510 miles. Remember we said minimum is a key word that means greater than or equal to. So we're going to do D is greater than or equal to 1510. And then it says this really important inequality word, and then we're going to come over here and see a maximum of 4,130 miles. And remember, maximum is a keyword for less than or equal to. So we're going to do D is less than or equal to 4,130. When you have and inequalities that kind of align properly, what we do is we write it as what's called a compound inequality. So you notice if I flip this one around and I make it 1510 is less than or equal to D, it's the same inequality, I just switched how I said it. It's the same inequality, see the mouth is facing the same way. And then you can kind of glue them together like this. So 1510 less than or equal to D, and then kind of stitch it together with this part is less than or equal to 4,130. And that is giving us answer choice B. Okay, question 16. So it says total cost. So we're probably going to add these guys up and set it equal to 661.76. And it says the forks are 0.04 and there's X forks. So 0.04X, and then we're going to add them because it says total. Plates are 0.48 Y plates. So 0.48 Y. And this is looking like answer choice D. Okay, question 17. Question wants us to find the x-intercept. So we're going to look where it crosses the x-axis. I see that happens right here. The coordinates of that point are -12, 0, which is answer choice A. Okay, question 18. So you don't need to know it, but it's probably really helpful if you know the equation for the perimeter of a rectangle, which is 2L plus 2W. And you see X is the length and Y is the width. So if I hold this equation up next to that, it becomes way more clear kind of what's going on. And anyway, so it says the width of the rug is 8. So the width is y. So let's write that out. So 46 equals 2x plus 2 times 8. So that's 46 equals 2x plus 16. We subtract 16 from both sides, and we get 30 equals 2x. And then if we divide both sides by 2, we get a length of x equals 15. And that is our answer. Okay, question 19. So I cover this in my Ottocento number 9 on basic statistics. I'm just going to assume you've already watched that, so please go watch that video if you haven't already. I believe this is an outliers question. So it's like that section of the lecture should be kind of towards the end. Anyway, so if we add an additional eruption with 11 bursts is added. So let's say 11 is like somewhere over here, and we add another dot. So we essentially added a much bigger number. So in my video, I call this a big outlier. When this happens, the mean will certainly go up because that number pulls the mean up. Think about it. Like if Bill Gates walked into your house, the average salary would probably skyrocket, right? It's very similar to that, just less extreme. So the mean is definitely going to go up. I talk about in my video, the median, it's either going to go up or it's going to stay the same. So the median, we're not sure. We have to check. So I also go over this in that same video and in my shorts, how to find the median from a chart. So we're going to do the position of the median is equal to n plus 1 over 2. So the old data set has, 13 eruptions. So we're going to do 13 plus 1 over 2. So 13 plus 1 is 14. 14 over 2 is 7. So I'm now going to, again, just looking at these guys, I'm going to count to 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the seventh number kind of right here is a 2. So the median of the old data set is a 2. Now let's check the new data set with the 11. So with the 11, it now has 14. Question says that. So we're going to do position of median equals 14 plus 1 over 2. And that's going to be 7.5. 7.5 tells us we need to take the average of the 7th and 8th value. So if I count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I see, oh, the 7th and 8th value are both a 2. So once again, the median is going to be 2. So the median did not go up. It could have, like if I was at the top of that bar and we overflowed into the 3, the median would have gone up a little bit. But because both of those numbers, the 7th and 8th number, were still a 2, it did not go up. And the question very clearly says, will be greater. So 2 is not greater than 2. So this one is out. And we just want 2 only, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 20. I go over this in my Ottocento number 2 unit conversions, how to do the factor label method. Please, please, please just go watch that video. All right, so we've got 24,816 yards per means divide the unit hour. Then I'm going to set up a conversion, and I'm going to look at this conversion they give me. And I notice I don't need to worry about the time. That's really convenient because you see how they're both in an hour, so I don't need to worry about that. That's good. Some of the harder questions in Module 2B will make you do that, so be on the lookout for that. And so I'm like, what goes on the top, what goes on the bottom? Well, if I put 1760 yard on the bottom and then 1 mile on the top, yards is on opposite sides of the division side, so the units will cancel, and I will be left with miles per hour, which is what we want. So all the hard part is done. Now we're just going to switch to Desmos and type it in exactly as it's written. Okay, so we got 24816 parentheses exactly as it's written, 1 over 1760, and that gives me a speed of 14.1 miles per hour, and that is our answer. Okay, question 21. This is a literal equations question. Wherever it says in terms of, the thing that comes before that is what we want to get by itself. And so we're going to get this guy by itself. And really the only thing on the side, as the same side as the P, is the 34. So we're going to move the 34. The opposite of addition is subtraction. We're going to subtract 34 from both sides. And these guys go away. And we get P equals Q plus R minus 34. And that pretty much exactly resembles answer choice B. Okay, question 22. I highly suggest you check out my Ottocento on percents and my shorts on percents, mainly the short called percent relations. That's essentially what this question is on. So first things first, we have some percent multipliers. Let's go and do those percent multipliers on Desmos, then we'll do the rest of the question. So we've got 190% greater and 80% less. Let's jump to Desmos. Okay, so for 190% greater, that's an increase. So we're going to do 1 plus 190 over 100. So that is a multiplier of 2.9. And then 80% less, that's a decrease. So we're going to do 1 minus 80 over 100. That's 0.2. So let me just jot those down really quick. 2.9 and 0.2. Great, let's go back to the board. Okay, now we're going to translate these equations. So A is means equals 2.9, 190% greater than B, or in other words, 2.9 times B, because we figured out that's the multiplier, right? And then this other one says B means equals 80% less. So that's 0.2 times 24. So see how I'm paying really close attention to the word is, and it tells me where to put the equals. All right, so we're in business. B we can find, so 0.2 times 24, just did that on a calculator. I get 4.8. Let's put a box around that. And now we'll come over to the second equation and put 4.8 in here. So A equals 2.9, 4.8. And let's see. I'm getting A is equal to 13.92, which is equivalent to answer choice B. Okay, this is the beginning of Module 2B. Question 1. So this question is testing us on D equals RT. And you'll notice that it wants us to get time by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by R, and I get T equals D over R. And it tells us that the distance is 24 centimeters and the rate is 6 centimeters per second. So that gives us 4 seconds. And that is our answer. Okay, question 2. So the question wants us to essentially just read this chart for the 4th growing season. So I'm going to look at the 4th growing season, work my way up, and then read the y-axis. And it says that the weight is 40 pounds, and that is our answer. Okay, question 3. So we have like a piece of wire, and it's cut into 2 parts One part has a length of x, the other part has a length of y. It says it has a total length of 32, so we're going to write x plus y equals 32. And then this other equation, which we're going to decode much more carefully, it says x is, okay, so that's x equals, and then it says 4 more than 3 times the value of y. So 3 times the value of y is just 3y. 4 more than that means to add. So 3y plus 4. We'll do this on Desmos in a minute, but you can also do this using substitution pretty quickly. We've already got x by itself, so how about we put this into the top guy. So we get 3y plus 4 plus y equals 32. That's 4y plus 4 equals 32. You subtract 4 and you get 4y equals 28. We divide both sides by 4 and we get y equals 7. And if y equals 7, I can go back to the equation that I substituted with, the one with x by itself, and put this in here. 3 times y, so 3 times 7 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So x is equal to 25. And that is our answer. Let's go do it on Desmos. Okay, so I just typed in the two equations verbatim. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit, click where they intersect. And you see we also get that x is 25. Okay, question 4. So this is y equals mx plus b. It's a linear equation. And just to make it a little bit more clear, how about I just rearrange this a little bit? So f of x equals negative 0.18x plus 33. Just rearrange it just to make it more clear. Question's asking about 33, and 33 is the b. B is the y-intercept. Y-intercepts always have an x of 0. The definition, one of the definitions of the y-intercept is that it's the y value when x equals 0. So the coordinates of the point that the 33 represents is 0, 33, where the x coordinate is what's inside the parentheses, which is x. And then the y coordinate is our function name, which is what's outside. So that's f. So when x equals 0, what does it say x is? It says, let me change this guy. It says when x days after the start of the project, okay, 0 days after the start, so in other words, at the start of the project, we have, what does it say? F is, gives the estimated height in centimeters of the liquid in the container. So we have F equals 33 centimeters liquid in container. Now we're going to look at the answer choices, see which one sounds like that. We said x equals 0 is very similar to start of the project. That sounds good. And then it says the estimated height in centimeters of the liquid. That sounds really good. I believe the answer is A. Let's look at why some of the other answer choices are wrong. It says the estimated height at the end of the project. No, I don't know when the project ends. I don't even think they tell us, but x equals 0 in this context is at the beginning. The estimated change in the height, that's not what F said. It said it's the estimated height. So that's not right. It also says each day. That would be more describing like a slope rather than a y-intercept. And then it said the estimated number of days for all of the liquids to evaporate. That's not what the y value of the y-intercept tells us. We said it's the estimated height. And then for all the liquid to evaporate, it's just kind of like, I don't know. We'd maybe have to do some calculation. I'm not exactly sure. I think that's actually maybe more describing when x is 0, when the height is, when y is 0. So I think this one's maybe more talking about, so like maybe this one's talking about the slope. This one down here is maybe more talking about the x-intercept. And then B is just asking us about some point that we just kind of don't know about. Really only A is talking about the y-intercept. So all these other guys are wrong, and our answer is A. Okay, question 5. We got another literal equations question. So we're going to look where it says in terms of, and we're going to circle what comes before that, W. So W is what we want to get by itself. So let's write this down, negative W over 150x. And the W is what we want to get by itself. And we have a negative sign and we have a 150x. I can move both of those in one go. You could do it one at a time if you want, but it's not going to change the answer. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 150x. And you will see that, oh wait, this guy goes away, and then negative times a negative is a positive. So these guys go away, and we're just left with W. And then on the other side, we're left with negative 150xv. It's pretty common to put like the variables in a term in alphabetical order. So I'm actually going to write that as Vx. And that is looking a lot like answer choice A. Which is our answer. Like I said, guys, you could have absolutely done that in 2 steps. You could have multiplied by 150x and then multiplied by the negative sign, but it's probably faster if you realize you can do it in 1 step. Okay, question 6. This is a multi-step equation. We're going to get all the x's to one side and all the numbers to one side. I kind of noticed probably the fastest way to do this is if I make the x side the left side and I make the number side the right side. So really the only guy that's out of place is this guy. So what I'm going to do is to move him. He's getting subtracted, so the opposite is addition. So I'm going to add x to both sides. And I get 14x equals 112. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 14. And I get x equals 8. And that is our answer. We can also do this question super quick on Desmos. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equation verbatim, and then I double click, and it tells me that the solution to the equation is 8. Okay, question 7. So to find a y-intercept from an equation, we make x equal to 0, and to find an x-intercept, we make y equal to 0, so whatever the other letter is, you make it 0. It's really important to understand. All right, so we want to find a y-intercept, so we're going to make x equal to 0. So y equals 0 squared plus 31. 0 squared is just 0, so 0 plus 31 is just 31. So the value of y is 31, and that is our answer. We can do this on Desmos as well. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equation. I don't see the graph, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to look where it crosses the y-axis and just double click there. And it tells me the y-coordinate of the y-intercept is 31. Okay, question 8. So we'll do this one by hand first. We can just kind of, do substitution because we already have one of the letters by itself. So you see we're going to take this and kind of put it in there. We've got y by itself, so let's substitute for y into the other equation. So we get 8x plus y, but it's really 9x plus 1 equals 5. And combine the like terms, so that's 17x plus 1 equals 5. Subtract 1 from both sides, I get 17x equals 4. Divide both sides by 17. Don't think it simplifies, so we'll just go with 4 over 17. You could use a calculator if you're unsure of that. And that is answer choice B. We can also do this one on Desmos, so let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the equations verbatim. I'm going to see where they intersect, and we're looking for the x value. So that's 0.235. I don't know what that is, and that's probably some repeating decimal. So kind of stuck. However, we can use guess and check to figure it out. So it's not -6. It's not 4. It's probably 4 over 17 or 6 over 17. So let me type those both in real quick. And if we just kind of hold it up, hopefully you guys see that 0.235 is 4 over 17. Okay, question 9. I go over this in my Ottocento number 2 on unit conversions. I'm just going to assume you've watched that, so please, please, please go watch that video if you haven't already. So first thing I notice is that they're both in seconds, so I don't really need to worry about that, but I'm going to write it anyway just for the sake of clarity. So we have 3 over 20 feet per second. That means to divide. We're going to set up a unit conversion, and we're going to do 3 feet equals 1 yard. What goes on the top? What goes on the bottom? So I'm going to put 3 feet on the bottom and 1 yard on the top. This way the feet is on opposite sides of the division side and will cancel. And we are left with yards per second. And the question says we want yards per second. So that bodes really well. Now, to just make sure I absolutely don't make a mistake, I'm going to type this into Desmos exactly as it's written, and hopefully that gives us the answer. Okay, so I'm going to do 3/20, parenthesis 1 over 3. And a lot of the answers are in fractions, it seems, so let me press that fraction button. And it tells me 1/20. So this is 1/20 yard per second. And that gives us answer choice A. Okay, question 10. So it says X is it's like the Xth day, and they want to know the 326th day. Pretty sure all they want us to do is make X equal to 326. So that's what we're going to do. So F of 326 is equal to 55.20. Always use lots of parentheses, guys. Minus 0.16. Parenthesis 326. So we get F of 326 is equal to 55.20 minus 0.16 times 326. I'm getting 3.04. So that tells us the estimated surface water temperature, which gives us answer choice B. We can also do this on Desmos. Let's go do that. Okay, so I just typed in the function, and now I'm going to type in F of 326, and I also get 3.04. Okay, question 11. So it says the perimeter is at most 210 inches. At most is an inequality keyword for less than or equal to. So we're going to do perimeter is less than or equal to 210. And if you didn't know, the perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 2L plus 2W. That's probably worth knowing, even though it's not on the reference sheet. So I'm going to write 2L plus 2W is less than or equal to 210. And now I'm just going to input the stuff they told us. So that they told us the length is 50, so 2 times 50. And they told us the width is X. 2 times 50 is 100, so that's 100 plus 2x, or just 2x plus 100, is less than or equal to 210. For whatever reason, they didn't make us solve it any further, and that gives us answer choice A. Okay, question 12. So for this one, whenever we factor, the first thing we're going to do is pull out a GCF. The greatest common factor that they have numerically is 8. And the greatest number, they all have an X, right? So like we have to think, what's the greatest power of X that they all three of them have? Which is in a way really the lowest X, right? So the most that they all have is X to the 1, because this one only has 1. right? The other ones have more than that, but the most they all have in common is x to the 1. So we're going to pull out 8x. And then to figure out what's left on the inside, remember factoring out a GCF is kind of like division. So we're kind of going to divide all these terms by 8x. And we get 8 divided by 8 goes away, x to the 10 divided by x. 10 minus 1 is 9, so that's x to the 9. Rules of exponents. Minus the 8's go away again, and we get x to the 8. Again, using quotient law of exponents. And then 88 divided by 8 is 11, so plus 11. And then x over x just goes away. So that's what we have when we pull out a GCF. And I'm noticing that is exactly like answer choice D, which is our answer. Because these are equivalent expressions with just one variable, in other words, x, we can quickly guess and check these on Desmos. So let's go do that. Okay, I typed all the expression in the question in, then I typed all the answer choices in, and we're just going to guess and check them one by one. This really skinny Desmos window that I use for the recording isn't helpful for this, but hopefully you guys can at least follow along. So if I check A, does it perfectly replace it? No, it doesn't. I see red and blue, so that's no good. All right, let me try this next one. I see green and red. That's no good. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, I see orange and red. That's no good. Now let's try this one. This is option D. Okay, so you see when I click on it, the purple perfectly replaces the red. That means they have infinitely many solutions, and that means they are equivalent. So D is our answer. Okay, question 13. So first thing I'm going to do is find the equation of this line. So the y-intercept is -4. And it seems like doing rise over run from like this point to this point. We go down to over 1. So that would mean like a slope rise over run. So a rise of -2, run of 1. So the slope is -2. B, the y-intercept, is -4. So this equation is y equals, in the picture, is y equals -2x minus 4. Now we have to understand function translations, which I go over in my Ottocento number 5. So please check that out on function translations. So f of x minus h plus k. Go over this a lot in that video. So you see where it says f of x minus 11. So there's no h, so there's no horizontal shift. See how like that's just kind of missing? But there is a vertical shift. K is equal to -11. And that means it's a shift of 11 down. However, this is very confusing, right? Do you notice how they didn't give you the original graph? They gave you the already translated graph. So to go from the translated graph to the original graph, you got to do the opposite. For example, if you moved 8 right, to get back to where you started, you would go 8 left. So we're going to do the opposite of 11 down, which is 11 up. So, and if it's all right, I'm going to call this g of x equals f of x minus 11. You could also see this doing algebra, right? So f of x is equal to 11 up would be g of x plus 11. So we're going to do -2x minus 4, that big mess, plus 11. And that gives us -2x. -4 plus 11 is plus 7. And that should be answer choice B. Let's see if we can verify our answer using Desmos. Okay, guys, since we had the picture, you almost could have done this using guess and check. So you see when I type in f of x equals -2x plus 7, that's our answer. And then I type in y equals f of x minus 11. That blue line looks very, very similar to the graph in the picture. So that is a really good sign that we did it right. Okay, question 14. So two things you want to know. The perimeter of a square is equal to 4 times s, where s is the side length. And the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 3 times s, where s is the side length. that's just something you want to know. Equilateral triangles have all the same sides, and they have 60, 60, 60, all the same angles, all 60 degrees. I'm just going to rewrite these with the letters they put in the questions. So for, what did they say? R for the square, and then the perimeter of the equilateral triangle is 3. What letter did they use? T for the side length of the equilateral triangle. So it says the sum of the perimeters of all these squares and triangles is 210. And there's 2 squares. So 2 times 4r. And there's 6 equilateral triangles plus 6 times 3t. That's the sum. Sum means add. It's the result of addition. Equals 210. And now we just multiply. So 2 times 4, so that's 8r plus 18t equals 210. And that gives us answer choice C. Okay, question 15. So kind of the crux of this problem is we need to find the slope. And how we're going to do that is we are going to put it in slope-intercept form. That's probably the way most people are familiar with. And something I like to do is to get rid of the fractions. So I go over this in my clearing denominators video, Ottocento number 14. The LCM of 7 and 5 is 35. So I'm going to multiply this whole equation by 35. 35 times 1/5, okay, that's 7x. 35 times 1/7, that's 5y. And then 35 times 70, that is 2,450. And then 35 times 0 is just 0. Now I'm going to isolate for y, so why don't I move the 2,450? And if you know, this is standard form, so if you know the equation, m equals negative capital A over b, you could just find the slope right there and stop. But why don't I keep going with the slope-intercept form derivation? So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. I get 5y equals negative 7x plus 2450. And now I'm going to divide everything by 5. So I get y equals negative 7/5 x. And let's do 2450 divided by 5 is 490. So plus 490. So y equals mx plus b. So the slope of this line is negative 7/5. We want to find the slope of a perpendicular line. So for perpendicular lines, the slopes are opposite reciprocals. So we flip it and change the sign. So instead of 7/5, it's going to be 5/7. And then instead of negative, it's going to be positive. So the answer to this question is 5/7, positive 5/7, which is option D. Okay, question 16. So they tell us the point 4 comma y. It says both equations intersect there. That means they both are satisfied by 4 comma y. So I'm going to plug in 4 comma y into both equations. So a, x is 4 plus b, y is just y, equals 72. And 6, x is 4 plus 2by, again, y is just y, equals 56. This gives me 4a plus by equals 72. And 24 plus 2by equals 56. So the question wants us to find a. So I'm kind of thinking, why don't we get rid of this using elimination? So we've got 1by and we've got 2by. So the least common multiple of 1 and 2 is just 2. So I'm going to try to make one of them positive and one of them negative. How about to accomplish that, I multiply the top one by negative 2. And that should hopefully give us what we want. So let's come over here. We get negative 8a minus 2by equals, what's negative 2 times 72? Negative 144. And then the other equation I just left alone And you see if I now, using elimination, add these two equations, then the negative 2by and positive 2by should go away, and I get negative 8a plus 24 equals negative 144 plus 56 is negative 88. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. I get negative 8a equals negative 112. And now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8. And I get a is equal to 14. And that gives us answer choice D. Okay, question 17. To help check the input-output table, it would probably make the most sense if we try to get y by itself. Just like I talk about in my Ottocento number 14, called matching coefficients and clearing denominators, we're going to clear the fractions, clear the denominators. So we have a denominator of 5 and a denominator of 4. The least common multiple of 5 and 4 is 20. So we're going to multiply this entire equation by 20. And we get 20 times 3/5. Okay, so that's 12x. 20 times 3/4, that's 15y. And then 20 times 7, that's 140. Now we're going to try to get the y by itself. Let's move the 12x. Let's subtract 12x from both sides. We get 15y equals negative 12x plus 140. And then we divide both sides by 15. And to answer the question, I don't have to put it in slope-intercept form. So I'm just kind of going to do it like this. You can if you want, but I don't think it'll really make that much of a difference. And instead of y, I'm going to put f of x. So let's do negative 12x plus 140 over 15. There's probably ways to simplify that, but that is more than good enough. So you see all these questions, answer choices, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. They all have the same x values, right? So why don't we just go and use Desmos to quickly figure out what f of 1, f of 2, and f of 4 are. Okay, so I typed in the function. Now I'm going to type in f of 1, f of 2, and f of 4. These will tell me the y values when x equals 1, 2, and 4. And I'm going to click on all these fraction buttons. So it should be 1, 128 over 15, 2, 116 over 15, and 3, 92 over 15. And that seems to give me, the only one that's like that is answer choice D. Now, even if you didn't know how to do the algebra, you could still guess and check using the answer choices. So let me show you that. Okay, so just in the interest of time, I skipped straight to the correct answer, but you could just type in like the first row of A, see it's wrong. The first row of B, see it's wrong. The first row of C, see it's wrong in this table, just using the original equation. And you see when I type in all 3 points of answer choice D, all 3 points are directly on the line, which means that is our answer. Okay, question 18. So we're essentially, question tells us there's a data set with just those ones, and then there's a data set where we add an 11. So like over here, somewhere here, old data set is just the black, but then the new data set is like the black and the purple. I go over this in my Ottocento number 9 on basic statistics. Please go watch that. I'm not going to go over the concept in more detail. If you want to really understand, go watch that video. And this situation is adding a big outlier. So I talk about this in the video. When we add a big outlier, the mean goes up. I don't need to do any calculation. The mean is certainly going to go up. It's kind of like if Bill Gates walked into your home, the average salary would skyrocket, right? It's like that, just less extreme. So the mean is going to be greater. So this one is definitely right. Now the median, it's either going to do what the mean does, it's going to do exactly what the mean does, or it's going to stay the same. It depends. So you don't know for sure, so you got to check. So we're going to check. We have to actually compute the median before and after the change. So I go over this in the same video, basic statistics, and also in my shorts. It's called median of a chart in the shorts tab if you want to go watch that. So the position of the median is equal to n plus 1 over 2. And in the just the black data set, there's 13 points. So we're going to do 13 plus 1 over 2. That's 7. So the 7th data value is the median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's like right here. So the median is 2 bursts before the change. Now, if I do it with the 11, there are now 14 data points. So I have to do position of median equals not 13, but 14 plus 1 over 2. And I get 7.5. I go over this in my videos. The decimal means we need to look at the two numbers closest to that number. So 7.5 is smack between 7 and 8. So we're going to look at the 7th and the 8th data value and then average them if they're different. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so those are both 2. The average of 2 and 2 is just 2. So even after the change, the median is still 2. But we had to check that because see how close I was to like overflowing into the 3? Then maybe the median would be 2.5 or maybe it would be 3. So you got to check it every time, unfortunately. Okay, so the median stayed the same, and the question very clearly says, will it be greater? And no, the median's not going to be greater. It stayed the same. So 1 is wrong. So the answer to this question is Roman numeral 2 only, which is C. Okay, question 19. So first off, the question wants us to find f of negative 4. So just replace all the x's with negative 4. So 3 plus absolute value negative 2, negative 4, minus negative 4 squared. All right, so it's 3 plus, just do this part of my calculator, negative 2 times negative 4 minus negative 4 squared. That's negative 8. 3 plus absolute value of negative 8. Absolute value of negative 8 is just 8. 3 plus 8 is 11. And that whole thing is equal to C. So now it wants us to find G of C. So we're going to do G of 11. So we're going to replace all those W's with 11. So negative 11 over 11 minus 1 minus 11 plus 5. Negative 11 over 10 is negative 1.1. The absolute value is 1.1. 1.1 minus 11 plus 5 is negative 4.9. And that is the answer. I think this one would have been way easier to do on Desmos. So let's go do that. Okay, I typed in the equations. The graphs don't really matter. Just typed them in verbatim. Desmos just put that negative sign out in front. Again, that also doesn't really matter. I'm going to rewrite that first statement just kind of backwards to define the constant. So C equals f of negative 4. I get 11. And then we're going to do G of C. And we get something different. Let's see if I type something in wrong. Yep, I think I see the issue, guys. I typed in W plus 1. It's W minus 1 in the denominator. Great. So C equals f of negative 4. Tells us our C is 11. And then on the next line, I type in G of C equals negative, and I get negative 4.9. Much, much easier. Okay, question 20. So, guys, this is talking about the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. And in case you didn't know, when you do 1/2 base times height on a right triangle, the base and the height are each of the legs. So for a right triangle, it's really in a way like 1/2 the first leg times the second leg. So we have the area, and if we can figure out the length of this line segment in the picture, we'll have one of the legs, and then we can do like one step of algebra to find the other leg. So to find there's a couple ways to find the distance of a slanted line segment in the coordinate plane. I'm going to use the distance formula. Give me a second while I write that on the board. Okay, so the distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And I wrote down the 2 points just by reading the picture. And you can do whatever you want, but I'm just going to label the first one x1, y1, and the second one x2, y2. I just like to do that. So we're going to do the square root of -6, or no, x2 minus x1. So 3 minus -6 squared plus y2 minus y1, 10 minus 4 squared. And -3 minus -6, that's 9. 9 squared is 81. And 6 squared, 10 minus 4 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Okay, what's 81 plus 36? That is 117, and I highly doubt that simplifies. So the length of that leg is square root of 117. Okay, so now we're going to start putting this into the formula. So the area, 36 root 13, that's going to go here. And then the length of one of the legs, that's going to go here. And then the length of leg 2, we can just call like x or something. So 36 root 13 equals 1/2 square root of 117 times x. All right, so how about I divide both sides by 1/2, and I get, what, 72 root 13 equals root 117x. And now I'm going to divide both sides by square root of 117. Great, and I just did that on my scientific calculator, but which handles radicals better, but I think you can do it on Desmos as well since it comes out nicely. So I divided both sides by square root of 117, 72 root 13 over root 117, and I got x equals 24. And that gives us answer choice B. Okay, question 21. So even though this one says 20% of, and I always say, guys, do divide by 100, change the of to multiplication, right? It says 20% of the marbles are going to be removed. So this entire phrase is really just a fancy way of saying there's going to be a 20% decrease in the number of marbles. So why don't we use our knowledge of percent multipliers to compute the multiplier for a 20% decrease? Let's jump to Desmos real quick. Okay, so for percent decrease, we do 1 minus percent over 100. So 1 minus 20 over 100. Okay, the percent multiplier for a 20% decrease is 0.8. So let's write that down. Let's go back to the whiteboard. Okay, now I'm going to do open. This is covered in Satella Tutoring's percents video. The open formula is OPEN. Old percent equals new. So the percent multiplier is 0.8. This part here where it says 360 remained, that is the new. This word remained means after it happened, right? So I'm going to put 360 over here. And then the old, we don't know. So how about I put an x right there? Okay, so to solve this equation, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.8. 360 divided by 0.8 gives me 450. So we started with 450 marbles, and we ended up with 360 marbles. So that means if we subtract those, 90 were removed, And that is answer choice B. Okay, question 22. I go over this in my Ottocento number 1 on percents and also in my shorts. There's a bunch of ways to do this, but probably the easiest way to find a percent increase, decrease, percent change from values is to just use the percent change formula. So new minus old over old times 100. And we're going to make the old 10, and then we're going to make the new 140. So you see, as we go from new to old, from old to new, it gets greater because that's what the question says, right? So I'm going to do the percent change equals 140 minus 10 over 10 times 100. And that should give us 130 over 10, so it's 13 times 100. So that is a positive 1300%, which is a 1300% increase, which is what the question wanted us to get because it says percent greater. And that gives us answer choice B. This is really nice if you type it in a Desmos. Let me show you that. Okay, so I typed in little o equals 10 for old, little n equals 140 for new, slash n minus o over o times 100. And we once again get a positive 1300% change. Okay, that completes the lesson. Please like and subscribe for more digital SAT math content. And if you're interested in my tutoring services, the link to my website will be in the description. I tutor SAT math and all math subjects from about 7th grade to AP/early college level. Thanks for stopping by, and good luck studying.